talking over the weekend about coming.
Oh,
I asked him to come up. What would your favorite? What would you think is a good premise for a Star Wars versus Star Trek scenario? And he's sitting there going on and trying to figure out. I can't remember where the conversation got, how it got to this point. I said, but isn't the Death Star's big beam? Isn't that just antimatter beam? And all of a sudden, his eyes went wide, and he's like, "I got it." In the Star Wars universe, they use Kuiper. They use the Kuiper crystals.
Mhm.
However, in Star Trek, they also have Kuiper crystals, but they just call them dilithium. And he goes, yeah. And he's like, there, I just solved the tech problems. And I think he's right. If dilithium and how did I say it wrong, Billy Bob?
Kuiper crystals.
Kuiper? What was I saying?
Kuiper.
Oh, it's Kuiper?
Yeah.
Yeah. But he said if the Kyber crystals and dilithium crystals are the same, that solves a lot of tech problems when trying to do a fan fiction crossover story.
Well, you know what's funny is in Shalara, I use 5 crystals in the temples to power up the wormhole.
Well, in my story, Crystal is a stripper. No.
In my story, Wrangler, you're basically the equivalent of Crocodile Dundee.
But hold up. But Star Trek would actually win because they have Q in the continuum.
Oh yeah, but
if he fights with them, maybe they'll have to team
Q
up.
is probably the one who
enemy.
arranged the whole thing
You know,
for his
I
own
mean-
entertainment, and did
Yeah,
teach
but
a story here and there.
If we're specifically talking about them, because why would the Jedi fight the Federation?
Yeah, so that maybe. Q
Oh no, we were talking
Yeah.
Federation versus Empire.
Empires will lose. They can't aim. Federation can.
Yeah, well, the Federation's tech is like so far beyond,
Obi-Wan
especially with their
Kenobi disagreed.
transporters. I mean, for one, they have warp; they can go pick any direction and just go. In Star Wars, they have to sit there and calculate how to get to their other destination through subspace corridors. So, if they decide we're going to bug out, they can't catch them. So
Star Trek is
Federation
also
ships,
post-scarcity.
Mhm.
There's
Not to
a
mention
matter
the
of food.
transporters. That's a
That too.
game changer for Star Wars people. And what's that about the post-scarcity, Otter?
Star Trek is post-scarcity, whereas in Star Wars, hunger is an actual factor. So
Yeah.
the potential for starvation is a lot more likely on the actual Empire side.
You think the Empire gives a fuck if their citizens are starving?
Well, it does give them a
To a
disadvantage.
point. They do care to a point. They do want the subjects to be somewhat loyal.
They need
Some-
to
No,
keep
but it
them in
does look
fighting
like
shape.
Just enough to keep them going along with it, not to the point where they're going to say, screw you, I quit.
the thing is they also seem to produce ships at a way quicker rate than Star Trek can.
Yeah. Because they are pretty much a war machine. So
There was
And I mean,
actually, I think it was the original Star Wars, the Old Republic game, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic game, where the big bad Empire. in
Oh,
that
hold
one
up, hold up.
only in
James,
the middle. Hey, fuck you! I'll read this out loud. Tremors 2 is surprisingly great. Tremors 3 is mid. I really enjoyed the Western spin with Tremors 4, but if you don't like the aesthetic, you'll be bored. And you don't need to watch any Tremors movie past that. Read out.
yeah, Otter doesn't want to be spoiled on KOTOR, so be careful.
Well, okay. Big power
I
weapon.
will be back in a
makes it-
couple minutes.
Okay, so this makes it easier, Ben. The big powerful weapon is essentially it's actually something that I think they might have stole from the later. I mean, they didn't steal this. Was stolen from them in the later Star Wars shenanigans because they essentially had a giant weapon that sucked up the energy of a star, and with all the material along with it, it would actually just produce a brand new ship in like no time. So it was a giant 3D printer for ships.
Yep.
And that's how they ended up conquering the universe. It's just giant 3D
That's what
printer.
That's what ended up giving Revan and Malik such a fucking
Yeah.
early hand. And by the way, Otter, these are like opening game spoilers.
This really is. This isn't really any major spoiler. Figure this out. Really,
I know. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's
we
no
gotta
big deal.
Yeah.
That's like opening game where they're like, oh yeah, so the whole conflict in KOTOR is a while back.
The Jedi Civil War.
Well, before the Jedi Civil War, you had the Mandalorians decided they're going to go fuck up the galaxy.
This is back when the
Fuck up the
Mandalorians
Republic.
were cool.
Mm-hmm. And the Mandalorians were just fucking swathing through Republican territory and just beating the shit out of them. And the Jedi convened and were like, "Oh, we should just keep waiting and not doing anything about this." And then basically Revan and Malik were like, "Fuck you." They took a bunch of young Jedis, went and fucked up the Mandalorians to the point where the Mandalorians revere Revan because he kicked their ass so fucking hard. And then he goes off into bumfuck space, and then him and Malik come back as Dark Lord.
Evil.
And they found this mega construction ship building device. You know, that just is able to pump out fleet after fleet.
Read
And
out
that's how they
Napoleon
end up starting
Dynamite
the
was
Jedi
terrible.
Civil War.
Yeah, I
Also,
honestly
it
know
also
very little
helps-
about Star Wars lore. I am very much a novice in that field.
It's a big universe, and you really don't have to remember much because it keeps Xing itself out every now and then.
Yeah, you really just got to remember certain species names. That's about it.